How'd your first run of the day go?
Splendid! Right on time, dry rails, and smooth running.
Too much running, you might say.
All that speeding up Celgrub hills has made me feel giddy.
Not to mention a speedy ride for the passengers.
Don't worry, I tried to keep my passengers comfortable as much as I can.
Hello again, slow coach. Better hurry if you're going to catch me.
Oh, here we go again.
Later, Casey!
Oh, see ya, Thomas.
Come on, Thomas. You'll need to go fast if you want to make this best 2 out of 3.
See you at the hills, birdie.
Why do you always have to rush up here? Your passengers will be cross about this.
What? Oh, excellent! 5 minutes early and 15 minutes till MilanToon. Thank you kindly, Thomas. I'll let you off this time, but don't go playing that kind of stuff with the next train. It was exciting for me, but not so much for the other passengers. Toodaloo! Right then, Thomas. Up for another race?
Not at the moment. I've got to get back to doing work properly. Maybe another day. Bye, Birdie!
Goodbye then, Thomas.
Okay, see you next week, Cardian. Have a happy Christmas. Okay, we've been making great time.
Oh, hello, Rectangleman.
My name is Mr. Grumpy. You know that.
And a Merry Christmas to you too, Rectangleman. So, you finished your Christmas shopping yet?
Well, yeah, mostly. It's easy to go Christmas shopping when you only have, like, 4 or 5 people in your life that you can tolerate.
Oh, cool. I finished mine yesterday. You will not believe what I got Strong Bad this year.
Let me guess, it's a Deep Impact on DVD.
Oh, cool. Hey, Horsey, did you know that Mr. Grumpy's a psychic? Whoa! Really?
No, wait, no, I'm not psychic!
Hey, Pete! Mr. Grumpy's a psychic!
No crooked cucumbers.
Morning, Tough Pete. Goodness, you seem positively winded this morning. Where's all that going?
Oh, it isn't really that much, Toby. Just this load from Grufflin Harbour going over to the freight yard. Anyway, what are you up to, Toby?
Oh, nothing much, actually. Taking workmen down to the city, some rocks from the quarry up to the harbour, and this load from the mines up to... where was it again? Oh yes, the marshalling yard. Those shunters need their coal, you know.
Super! Good to know we're getting good loads of the day. Oh, if you see Puffle, can you ask him if he's on his way to the freight yard now with those trucks in the yard? Slow down, you Oh dear! We'd better go after him. Hey, Toby!
Sure thing. We'll leave our loads here and come back for them later.
Hold on, Puffle!
Okay, Puffle, whatever you do, don't crash. I said don't crash. Don't.
Right then, Luke. what do you want me to do while you guys are gone?
Well, Tracy, I want you to arrange the goods train that Wartime's picking up later today. Can you manage moving the wagons in place?
Of course I can. Why do you think the tower called me to work here?
Because you like to do big jobs?
How did you know?
Well, that's what Humphrey and Roderick told me at your yard.
Oh, I knew that.
Now, we've got to go and pick up a package from the Crotoonia goods depot. So, make sure things are done when we come back.
Right, time to get to work. This load's gonna need to be shifted fast. Better get on it. Come on, just move. Please, just move. Come on, please move. Come on, move. Come on, please, just move. Oh, how am I gonna move these wagons? I've handled this kind of work before. That's it! Let's go get those other wagons.
Wow, Tracy, really good work. You get that whole set in just 10 minutes?
Yep, all that lot was easy. After the first try.
The first try?
I'll tell you in a bit.
Excuse me, but have you seen the Carville shunter around here? The locomotive should be fetching my express coaches for the 11:45 train.
Well, you're looking at him. Hey, Gordon. I'm taking over Puffle's ship while he's taking a goods train down to Groflin Harbor. Besides, someone has to look after another's job.
You do have a point there, but not all things can be easy like shunting coaches for one's passenger run. For all the express is an important job for an important engine like the very Doncaster you're looking at.
You're one to talk. Anyway, you seem to pique someone's curiosity, Gordon, as I am tempted to know what it feels like to pull such an impressive train full of travelers from all around the world.
And what a fancy train this is, my dear Casey. The Express, an example of elegance on the rails. Miles of the railway's finest coaches racing along the lines with a fine big engine in front. Like me. He pulls like a bullet train on the line, ensuring that the...
Yeah, I know the deal. Expresses are the big fancy trains that only stop at the big important stations. And the locals are the ones that go to all the stations on the line. Blah, blah, blah-de-blah, blah. We're all so happy in the end.
You watch your mouth there. Not to sound repulsive or anything, but I think that a circus locomotive, such as yourself, should be better off pulling a train down the rubbish and recycling yard. Now go and fetch my coaches.
Hey, is that my train seat, Junior?
Yep, all ready to go down to Celgrub City.
Pete, wait!
Hey, what's the matter, Gordon?
You're taking my coaches.
Whoa, wait a minute. If I'm taking your coaches, who's gonna take my cars then?
Casey Jr., why would you go and do that?
You didn't say where to bring your coaches, Gordon. Sayonara!
Oh, the indignity.
Come on, you horrible lot! We're bound for the quarry today! Hold the geezer back, boys! Oh, that limit!
Hey, Pete. What's up?
Oh, morning, Tilly. These trucks are needed at Cliffstone Mountain Quarry urgently, but these little buggers are living up to that name. Ugh, Timothy's waiting to collect them at Baseline Quarry.
Would you like me to take them there for you?
Not too sure. There's still lots of shunting to do here in the yards today.
Please? I'm up for the challenge.
Well, all right, if you're sure. I'll go and get Rosie to help while you're gone. Take care with this lot, Tilly. They're not called troublesome trucks for nothing.
Ah, don't worry about me, Pete. I'm always up for a challenge.
Hello, Edward.
Hello, Tilly. Do you need help with those troublesome trucks?
No, thank you, Edward. Nearly there. Nearly there.
All right, boys, a cue. Hold back. Hold back.
Oh, no, you don't.
There goes above the beat. There goes above the beat.
That's better.
That must be... Whoa! Tilly, did those give any trouble to your hole?
No trouble at all, Timothy. They were very well behaved.
Wow! You're a natural at pulling troublesome trucks, Tilly. If only I was as good as you.
Thank you, Timothy.
Now let's get these trucks over to the siding. Far away in the country of Crotoonia, there lives a railway company called the Fantasyland and Fairy Tale Railway Traction Company Limited. There are many engines that live here who run the main lines and branch lines of Crotoonia's railways. One of the smallest engines in the company was a switch engine named Tilly. She moved engines in and out of the sheds, sorted out all the coaches and wagons, and prepared and brought the trains for the big engines to take down the main line.
The biggest diesel of the company was Farnsworth. He adored pulling passenger trains over the mountains to the towns, but he loathed any goods train.
Where are my coaches?
Hold your wheels, Farnsworth. They're nearly ready.
Well, hurry up. I can't waste time dealing with silly little engines like you.
What do you mean, silly? I spend my days running these yards while you zoom down the main line with your coaches.
Well, you work with freight cars. I work strictly with passenger coaches. I never touch those dirty things.
Well then, you're a disposable engine then. You won't be ready for emergency trains then.
Disposable! I'll have you know that I'm an indispensable engine. I am needed for passenger work. You're just as important to us big engines as that puny little tender engine from the circus or whatever.
Who are you calling puny?
Watch where you're going along those points!
Well, watch what you say about us smaller engines. We may not be as big as you, but we're just as useful as you overglossed passenger engines.
Oh, I didn't need this today. Good day, sir. I said good day.
Nothing warranted you saying good day that second time.
I don't care.
Morning, sir. Express runs right away?
Sorry, Montana, but Miss Ella had to do some rescheduling this morning. There's a slow goods train waiting at Celgrub Central Yards, and she wanted you to pick it up from all the stations in the Celgrub region, then start work on the express train.
No problem, sir. Be back in a bit.
I wish I could take a train outside of the yards.
Just then, Tilly's friend Thomas arrived. Like a few Crotoonians, he often stops by from the island of Sodor, and this morning, he was just bringing a goods train of supplies to his own branch line in Crotoonia.
Good morning, Tilly. How are things in the junction?
Same as always. Everybody's busy with their own jobs while I'm stuck shunting cars and coaches into place.
Don't worry, Tilly. I'm sure you'll get a chance to work outside Colville. I was a shunter like you when I started on Sodor, but once I learned enough and proved I was really useful, I got my own branch line and coaches.
Really?
Really. So don't worry. You work your hardest around here, and I know for a fact that you'll have a bigger job soon enough. Oh, sorry, Tilly. I have to take these supplies to Crotoonia now. Have a good day.
I'll try.
Celgrub Central Station is one of the biggest stations on Crotoonia. Every day, passenger trains rattle and roll in and out of the station, hauling coaches of all kinds to and from the other towns and cities. And it was a very busy morning while Gordon was stuck outside the platform doing nothing.
Oh no, not him!
Hello, slow coach. What are you doing sitting around? Don't you usually pull the express?
I know, Farnsworth. I've been placed with another job. I've got to wait for my driver to pick up a schedule before I can set off.
Oh, how quaint. I suppose it's only fitting for a tender...
Don't you start that! Not like you were late by 5 minutes.
Okay, that was not my fault. It was all because of that silly little circus engine. And a goat on the line. And an overheated radiator. Look, the point I'm trying to make is, at least I'm working on...
Farnsworth! Oh, what luck. Can you leave your coaches here and help Gordon take some container wagons later?
But...
Splendid. Head to the goods yard, find some wagons, and be at the Celgrub Bay container docks by 12:30. There's a big load to haul, so we'll need all the help we can get.
What?
You were saying?
Farnsworth, wait! You've forgotten about the passengers from my line! Oh, bonjour!
As Montana pulled in, Callie the rescue shunter rolled up along the other platform. She was delivering emergency supplies to all the stations on the main line.
Morning, Montana! What's up with you? You look like your connecting rods are twisted.
Sorry, Callie. Just waiting around to collect a freight train to bring around the region this morning. I've got a long run across the border today, so I can't be late.
Don't worry about it, Montana. You've been pulling the express for years. You'll catch up with it. Besides, I just heard that Henry and Chatsworth are managing the runs from Celgrub to the mainland for the morning. So you'll be covered until then.
Well, I suppose you're right. Thanks for letting me know, Callie.
Anytime, old-timer.
Attention! Oliver, you're clear for the 9 o'clock local to Celgrub Bay. Oh, and could one of the shunters please bring in Montana's wagons? We have to clear the platform for Thomas's supply train from Crotoonia Harbor.
Well, I best be on my way then. The station needs these supplies in case an emergency breaks out.
All right, then. Have a good one, Callie.
Breakdown Crotoonia coming through! Woo!
A little while later at Colville Junction, Tilly was feeling upset about Farnsworth's teasing and not being able to pull trains of her own. She wanted to do more than just moving cars and coaches in a single place.
Hey, Tilly! Tilly? Are you okay?
I suppose.
Is there something bothering you?
Sort of. Is it a bad thing to be a switch engine?
Of course not. I used to be one before I joined the rescue team. Why do you ask?
Well, Farnsworth keeps telling me about how I'm just a little switch engine moving real engines around the train yard. He always makes me feel like I've got the lowest job in the yard, while all the other trains get to travel.
But how could they travel without their wagons? Should the big engines move back to collect their wagons, risking hitting the points or colliding into another train? It's your job to keep other engines safe when collecting their trains. And look at the other little engines of our railways. Tracy works as a shunter, but she also pulls the mail. Emma works at the docks and on the seaside branch. And Ivor, boy, he sure keeps a cool head running from the coal mines to the seaside branch and all around Crotoonia. So you see, just because you're not as big as everyone else doesn't mean you can't do more than they can. Your size is what makes you unique.
Really?
I wouldn't say it if I didn't know.
Look out! Runaway milk train!
Oh no!
Clear the way! I'm going in!
Oh, thanks, Tilly. I owe you one.
See? The yards wouldn't be the same without you.
Meanwhile, at Celgrub Bay Harbor, Farnsworth and Gordon were crossly sitting on the container dock, waiting for their flatbeds to be loaded up.
Hurry up, Terex! I need to get out of these good duties as soon as possible!
And my coaches will need to be taken over the mountain soon.
Keep your smoking, you two! I'm working the best I can!
Well, you should go faster!
Yes, I agree with Gordon for once. Have me loaded first.
You first? Who made you top engine?
I just want to get back to pulling my coaches so that fine people can enjoy the view, and so that other fine people can sleep comfortably, and so
Oh dear, Farnsworth, don't burn all your fuel telling us what we've heard before.
Well, let's not interrupt him then. Be right back, Gordon. Need to get the last few containers to hook up.
There was siding 5 in the shipping company shed they were on. Right, Salty?
Righto, me hearty! Ha 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 ha!
What happened next? Nobody quite knows. Farnsworth said he heard a conductor's whistle, while Gordon said he heard nothing. Either way, Farnsworth started off, and Gordon, wanting to get his work done, followed behind, just as Salty and Ariel came back with the last shipment to go.
What the? Gordon? Farnsworth?
Hi! Where are you two off to?
Well, don't just stay there. Go and try and stop them.
Quick, Salty! Go, 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 go!
Hey, watch it, you two! I had the right of way! Get back here!
Look out! Sorry, Emma.
Sorry, Luke!
Elsewhere, Montana was finally making his way back to the junction with a loaded slow goods train when suddenly... Sorry, Montana, but we gotta go back around the loop. We've forgotten the flatbeds quicker than the other day.
I'm going to beat you, Farnsworth.
No, you won't.
Salty? Why are we stopping?
They be in top speed now, lass. No way we can get them now.
What should we do?
Not sure. They're used to racing, but I'm not sure if rule breaking's typical.
Hurry back, Salty!
Why?
Just hurry back to the harbor, quick! We've got to warn the other engines. If we keep racing like this, there's going to be a crash at the junction.
I'm gonna be late. The border special is gonna be stuck unless I get back in time. What the? Gordon! Farnsworth! Stop!
Cali, we've just gotten an emergency report. There's been an accident at Whitfield Forest. Montana's overrun the point, and he's crashed into an embankment. Gordon and Farnsworth are both stuck in a ditch, and their cargo is spilled in there. We've got reports of no injuries on site, but help could still be needed. We've ordered a breakdown crane to be ready for you. Pick it up and get there as soon as I can.
Got it, Chief. Over and out. I'm the Crotoonia Patrol, and I'm ready to roll.
Here we go, Pete. All 20 cars. All ready for... Oh, dear. What's happening, Callie?
No time to talk. Montana, Gordon, and Farnsworth are all in a mess.
What?
Rattling rivets! What happened to you?
Oh, I was moving along the line, and the signal was clear, but then they came along the next minute, and the signal changed.
You should have known we'd be coming. The signal should have been down for me.
The signal? For you? Ha! I was supposed to pull a fine passenger train over the...
Ha! It's not fine as the express. Why, that train is as precious as...
Quiet! Goodness gracious, you two. You're acting worse than Montana should be. He's worked all morning with the slow freight all around Celgrub, while you two have been breaking safety regulations on the rails all morning.
Crossing the intersection without warning other engines.
Racing off from the station when you're not supposed to, and leaving coaches on the platform.
And nearly sending engines straight through the buffers.
Looks like you two will need more than just new paint to look better.
Oh, I'm sorry about the mess, Callie. The signal was cleared, but I guess I should have looked more carefully instead of rushing back down the line.
Nonsense! The accident wasn't your fault. It was silly engines and a dozing signalman that caused the problem. You were simply too late. You've been working really hard from what I've heard. Still, we better try and get you guys back on track. Breakdown Crotoonian to the rescue!
Back at Colville Junction, there was a great state of panic. Without Montana, the special express train, the Fairy Tale Arrow, couldn't move anywhere. The manager of the railway company, Miss C. Ella, was on the platform listening to the noise.
Please, Ella, I need to get back over the border by tonight. I kinda missed my connection back to Tuckburg.
I'm well aware of that, Scrooge, and we're doing the best we can to get everything under control and on time.
Couldn't you find another engine to pull the train?
But all of the other big engines are scheduled with trains. Everyone except...
How come you can't do it, Casey?
Oh, Tilly, I'm sorry. I'm stuck on back-to-back goods runs to the freight yard. This cargo's important, and so are the loads Cormac's arranging for a depot here. I wish I could help you.
And I've gotta go and get Slice in the quarry and bring them to Grufflin Harbor. It's an urgent shipment.
Well, I'm sure they'll find someone to pull the train.
And I think I found just the engine for the job.
You have?
Yep, and I'm looking at her and her back engine right now.
Really? Me? Pull the express? Yahoo!
Tilly could hardly contain herself. After waiting for so long, she finally had a big train she could pull outside of the junction.
Thank you, ma'am. We're ready to go now.
Oh, we won't let you down, Miss Ella. Will we, Ivor, old boy?
Soon, a pair of engines coupled up to the train. They were told that Henry and Sir Reginald would meet them at Celgrub Central and take over from there. The passengers quickly boarded the express coaches bound for Celgrub City and beyond. The baggage van's door banged shut, the drivers brought up steam, the conductor blew his whistle, and the Fairy Tale Arrow left the station.
When your feet are dragging on the ground, steadily face whatever you're afraid of. When pandemonium is all around, that's when you'll find out what it is you're made of. If you'll just believe it's true, then there's nothing you can't do.
I think we can.
There's not a river you can make it over. There's no tomorrow that you can't find if you try. I know you're gonna make it. Nothing can stop you now. There's not a mountain that we can't climb. There's not a river we can't make it over. There's no tomorrow that we can't find if we try. We know we're gonna make it. Nothing can stop us now.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Attention! The train approaching on track 3 is the 6 o'clock express to Norfolk.
At last, tired, worn, but triumphant, Tilly and Ivor rolled up to the platform with the heavy coaches.
How late were we?
Bubbling boilers! You made it just a minute before the deadline!
Oh, that's one in the headlamp for Farnsworth. Serves him right for calling you silly little engines. Henry and Sir Reginald soon moved out of the way so that a shunter could couple the Fairy Tale Arrow coaches to their train after the boarding was complete. And Tilly and Ivor left to go and reload their bunkers and water tanks for the return journey back to Colville Junction. A few days later, Sir Alan Featherington, the directing manager for all the Crotoonian railways, and Miss Ella rounded up some of the engines and vehicles for a very special announcement.
gentlemen, engines, cars, buses, and coaches, we are gathered here today to honor a very special switch engine and her fellow tank engine friend. She has proven to be very brave when she prevented a nasty disaster from happening in this very rail yard, helpful from her work here in the depot, and a dependable go-to engine from her readiness to help a bigger friend in need to take the express for him, with the help of another hard-working friend, of course. Tonight, we would like to thank you, Tilly and Ivor, for your hard work, bravery, and determination here in Colville Junction. Ivor shall receive his own vintage passenger run on the Seaside Railway.
And to you, Tilly, for all that you've done around the junction.
Your very own mail run.
3 cheers for Tilly!
So now, even though she still works on shunting in the junction, Tilly has her own special job on the railway, pulling mail cars down all the branch lines on the railways of Crotoonia. She loves working with her friends from the junction like Johnny and the Greendale Rocket, and Tracy from the Dreamfleet Rail Company, and her other friends like Thomas and Casey Jr. always make sure to give a friendly peep when they're on early morning jobs.
Engine number 3 on track 1, you are clear for departure.
And Tilly is very proud of finally having a big job to call her own.
There's not a mountain that we can't climb. There's not a river we can't make it over. There's no tomorrow that we can't find if we try. We know we're gonna make it. Nothing can stop us now. Nothing can stop us now.
Evening, Skipper. All present and correct, I see. Nice to see you in tip-top shape for Hallows Eve.
Couldn't be better, Olsen.
Evening, James.
Evening, Frank. Isn't my paint the most splendid? Victor just got a...
James! What on earth is all that?
Oh, hey there, Skipper Stu. What do you mean exactly? Is there a scratch on my paintwork?
Those decorations! Those unsuitable things you call decorations! Why do you look so ridiculous?
Ah, Skipper Stu. Pleasure to see you. I see you've noticed our starring attraction for this year's Pinewood Island Halloween Parade. We just got him done at the Colville Works. Oh, doesn't he look amazing?
Don't forget that I'm coming too. The parade needs someone to look after the young chuggers for their first year.
You mean engines, right, Olwen?
Well, we've all got our own ways of referring to ourselves.
Well, the matter at hand is I don't think we need full-on decorations for parades and such. A float, I can understand. A decorated wagon, possibly. But an entire engine? Think of the resources and time spent on dressing an engine for just one night! Couldn't you say the exact same thing about the other options? True, but it'd be a little more respectable for the average engine. I mean, look at you! You look like something out of the resort's gift shop!
Did I see you last Christmas brightly decorated? You had so many lights, people kept mistaking you for the holiday train.
You see, Owen, it was a bet.
Oh, you big joker.
I'd hate to intrude, but could you stop chattering and get secured, please?
I'd like to get you all to Pinewood Island in time for the party.
And you certainly wouldn't want to miss a party, would you, lads? No, of course not. You may proceed, Olson. I swear it was a bet.
That's not what Salty told me.
Mighty machines, making mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines, lifting and pulling and flying so high, building a building up to the sky. You can watch them all day and never know why they're mighty machines. Hear them roar, watch them soar, sit right down and see. There are stories to enjoy for every girl and boy. Mighty machines, making mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines.
Casey Jr. is a small tender engine who works mixed traffic services on the railways of Crotoonia. He's a smart little engine who knows his way around the railway after working on it for many years.
Oh no!
Though he is prone to getting into a few scrapes every now and then. One day, he was delivering a train of fuel and coal to the Crotoonian yards of the Dreamfleet Railway Company, one of the many railway companies that work the country's railways. Big Old Rusty, Dreamfleet's oldest steam engine, was arriving with a load of empties. He had just delivered a load of slates from the quarry all the way up to the docks in Gradinia Bay.
Hey there, C. Junior. How's things?
Pretty good. Just brought over some stuff for your fuel tanks and coal hoppers.
Oh, now that's a relief. You came right in time. We're just a quarter hopper away from being empty.
Good to hear then. Say, where's Tracy?
Tracy, the little shunting engine that worked the yards, who was usually upbeat and cheery, wasn't feeling very well. She'd overworked herself in the hot sun, and, as a result, had overheated her boiler, which was electrically heated instead of using coal or wood to burn.
Oh, sorry, Tracy, but you'll have to go to the works in Colville for repairs. We just can't let you risk your boiler bursting working with all those cars and coaches.
But sir, who's going to take my mail train? The villagers need to get their packages and letters delivered on schedule.
Casey Jr. rolled up to the workman and Tracy. He had an idea.
Hey, sir! What if I took Tracy's mail train tonight?
You, Casey Jr.? Are you sure?
Sure as sure can be, sir. I just have a goods train to take to the docks at Groflin, so I can work her train later tonight.
Okay, if you're sure. I'll let the mail depot supervisor and Miss Ella know.
Workman called Miss Ella about the plan, which she approved, and the same went for the manager of the mail depot. Casey Jr. took his cars to the harbor and headed back to the sheds for a power nap. Nighttime can be very busy for the few engines who have jobs throughout the night. There's passengers to take home past the station in Norfolk, and freight to go to the factories, towns, and big ships at the harbor. The busiest type of train at night in Crotoonia is the mail train. These trains take special coaches and wagons called mail cars, where the mail is loaded on and sorted en route to their destinations, sometimes traveling by air or road. Casey Jr. was soon at the mail depot, where his wagons and loaded packages were waiting. Edward was also there, helping Johnny with the mainline mail trains.
Evening, Casey.
Evening, Edward. How's things?
Not bad. Mainline traffic's been the same for me. I take it you're taking over for Tracy?
Yep, I'm taking her mail cars all the way down to... Where exactly am I taking the mail wagons?
I figured you'd ask that. You're to take all the mail from here to Cliffstone Junction, take care of the mail on the Mountain Branch lines, and drop off your train at Crotoonia Base Station to let the other postal vehicles and the Pinewood Island mail engines complete the last little bit of work.
Sure thing. Drop off to Cliffstone Junction. Mail for the Mountain Branch. Final stop at the mountains? You sure that's the right place to take them? Because the branch lines have really narrow lanes and really huge cliffs and are really high up in the river.
Calm down, Casey. You're not frightened of the mountains, are you?
Oh, of course not. I go on them all the time. It's the branch lines I'm worried about. Those rickety rails and tight cliffs make me nervous without a clear view.
Well, imagine it's like the main line, and it should be better. Goodbye, Casey Jr. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
The men moved quickly to ship the parcels, packages, and letters into Casey Jr.'s mail wagons. They were larger than Tracy's usual wagons, so they could fit a little more into them. Finally, the cars were loaded, and Casey Jr. was on his way. Casey Jr. slowly made his way up the line, a little worried about what would come later on. Soon made his first stop at Cliffstone Junction. Porters and workmen hurried to load and unload the mail for the towns near the stations and beyond the station. Then they set off for the first loop line, which ran from the junction, through the mountain, and up to the town of Rotoslopia. Casey Jr. soon made it to the first big slope. The track was rather steep, and there was little elbow room in the cliffs that surrounded it. It was tough to roll up the mountain at first, but Casey Jr. wasn't willing to give up just yet.
Alright, give it everything we've got. Let's go. I think. Come on, let's go. Come on. I know.
At last, after much pulling and much straining, he was finally at the top of the hill.
Finally!
Casey Jr. felt much more confident. He didn't feel like slowing down now, imagining himself along the main line as Edward suggested. If only at the worst possible time.
Casey, slow down! You're headed straight for me! Rattling rivets! What happened to you, Glazy Jr.?
Sorry, Pete. I didn't know you were coming down the hill. I was going down so fast. It was hard to see you at the bottom.
First time out with a late night mail run, eh? Well, I can't say I was perfect on me first night run, but I did learn a thing or two from me mistakes. You can't be too confident or too underconfident about working in a new way or with a new job. You just have to go in there and do your best, no matter what. That's what I've learned, at least.
Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome, C. Junior. Right, time to get going.
Pete! Where's that crate going?
Oi, what crate?
Oh, the one on your last flatbed.
I still don't know what you're rattling rivets! That crate's supposed to be at the docks! It's a specially ordered load of paving stones for a customer in the UK! The ship's leaving at sunrise!
Let me take it for you. I'm on my way to the docks anyway.
Oh, thank you, Goisey Jr. You're a real saint.
Soon, Casey Jr.'s conductor loaded the crate onto his first mail coach, and quickly Casey Jr. puffed away to finish up the mail run. The docks the crate was heading to was at Crotoonia Bay, at the very end of the Crotoonian main line. He knew he had a lot more stops to do, so he put on full steam and got to work as fast as his wheels could let him. He wasted no time getting his other work done. There was some for the manager of Cliffstone Center Quarry, where Speedy, Bill, and Ben worked. A little bit for the manager of the logging camps. A little bit for Rotoslopia Junction.
a little bit for the steelworks in Bluesburg, a little bit for Boston, a bit for the search and rescue team, a little bit for his home in Colville Junction, until at last he was at Gardenia Bay Junction. The yards were already booming when he got there, and the Pinewood Island mail train and Johnny were waiting for him, ready to depart.
Hey, C. Junior. Where are you heading to?
Delivery for the dock. Back in a bit.
Okay, see you later.
And after everything was done, Casey Jr. brought the crate over to the docks ready for shipping. He caught it in good time, too. The ship was completing its final loading procedures, and the crane wasted no time getting it on board. Later that morning, Sir Alan Featherington, head of operations on the railways of Crotoonia, sent a message for Big Tim to deliver to Casey Jr. Hey, Casey! Got a message from Sir Alan! You seemed to do a good thing last night, bringing that special delivery back to the docks for Pete and sticking to your mail schedule on record time. So much so, he's taking you with him to an important trip to Boston for the weekend. He'll book you tours, a shed, and everything. Isn't that exciting? Casey, you doing okay, buddy? But he didn't get an answer. He was so tired from all the rushing around that he'd fallen fast asleep.
Somebody get this freaking duck away from me!
Tilly the little engine had been working very hard. Ever since her great rescue of the fairy tale Arrow, Miss Ella had been assigning her more out-of-the-yard work, which made her very happy indeed. She loves visiting new places and meeting the other engines who help run the railway. One day, Mrs. Ella had an important job for her. We've got some spare parts from the works to go to the mainland and some goods bound for Pinewood Island scheduled for the noon Pinewood goods. I need you to take them to Gardenia Bay so they can be brought to their respective destinations. Oh, yes, ma'am, said Tilly excitedly. Gardenia Bay is one of the biggest stations and towns on the Crotoonian main line, and there were lots of friends she knew there, like Scarloey and Rheneas, the narrow-gauge engines, and Piper, the steam-electric shunter. She collected the spare parts from the goods shed, where Farnsworth was getting oiled up from his morning local run. Well, if it isn't the little switch engine who's off to haul a real engine's train, he said dismissively. Now, Farnsworth, said Jason. Wasn't it her who took a train you inadvertently caused to derail? It shut him up instantly. As Tilly backed down on the freight cars, an awkward clanking sound was heard. It was like a pair of exercise weights being bumped together. But outside of the freight cars, nobody else heard it. Tilly soon collected her cars from the goods depot and set off for the junction. But the clanging noise kept ringing out, and the shunters who were fastening cars together in the yard were very worried. As she passed through the cuttings between Colville and Gardenia Bay, the clanking seemed to get louder and louder. Until... clang! One of Tilly's glides got jammed. Now it would be much harder to push her driving wheels along. But Tilly didn't want to stop to let another engine take over. I shouldn't give up. What will Mrs. Ella say if I told her I'd broken down with a very important train? So the little engine decided to press on. She passed through a nearby halt where the Greendale rocket was taking on water. As she passed through, there was a small hissing sound that seemed to follow her. Tilly, called the rocket. Did you fill up with water before heading out with the train? But it was no use. She was next to the brake van by the time her message was finished. Soon, Tilly reached the busy town of Crotoonia Bay. Trucks rattled past on the roadways and overpass, construction cranes whizzed about with their work, and there stood the big hill just before the station. Whoop whoop, whistled Henry, who was passing through with an express freight. Mind the hill today. The sea salt's making it a bit rough. Tilly was ready for hills, so she fired off her sandboxes and charged at the hill. The freight cars tried to slip on their brakes, but Tilly was sure to beat them and press on. As she took on the final slope, James hurried up with a small vegetable train from Boston. He heard a nasty hissing sound near Tilly when suddenly, pop, a bolt shot out from one of Tilly's pistons. Rocketing rivets, shouted James. What's gotten into you, Tilly? Don't think I can manage this hill, eh, James? Said Tilly excitedly as she made the final incline. No, I mean there's something wrong inside of your— Bang! A huge noise rocketed through the station yard. What was that? Shouted Station Master Scatterbrain, who'd been in the yards checking over a delivery from the main line. Robbers? Fireworks? A truck backfiring? I think you'll find it's a breakdown, said a worried James. Tilly had finally made herself run too much. Her conductor clambered into her cab and examined her controls. Oh, I knew it, she said. She's clean out of water. Boiler tube explosion seems to be it. You've worked yourself hard enough to boil water for the whole town. Damn pissed and glad too, called a workman. It's a miracle she made it to the yard safely. Tilly felt horrible. She felt like she had readied herself for the scrap heap. Later that evening, Mrs. Ella visited the Colville Works, where workmen were busily freeing Tilly's glide. Tilly's wheels shuddered a little bit. She feared the absolute worst. But instead of a, Tilly, what did you do? Or a, Tilly, why wasn't the job finished right? She heard a very worried, Tilly, are you all right? I think so. I'm really sorry about the train this morning. Oh, never mind the train, said Mrs. Ella. What matters right now is how you feel. Well, I do hurt a little bit, but I thought the train was a big priority, so I pressed on. I appreciate hard work from my engines, she said. But I also want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. If you sense that something is wrong, you've got to let someone know. That's just using your stack. Yes, ma'am. I'll be sure to be more careful next time. And one more thing, Mrs. Ella said, as she exited the works. Yes? Asked Tilly. Get yourself a good night's sleep. And after her little trip up the line, Tilly was sure never to push herself too far again. Really useful engines need their brakes too.
Thomas and Tracy enjoy helping out at the Bluesburg Steelworks. They love visiting their friends Phoebe and Ralph and giving them much-needed help. Ralph has constantly kept busy running the manager about and shifting ladle cars into place, while Phoebe takes on long journeys to Bluesburg West Junction and beyond. But the yard had many orders to fill for the next few weeks, and even the extra 2 engines weren't enough to keep things running. That was when Diesel, Airy, and Bert came in. Diesel was in charge of the docks at Crotoonia Bay, while Airy and Bert had been brought in from the Sodor Ironworks for a period. Together, the engines had a known reputation for pranks and mischief-making around other engines. They arrived one busy morning. Thomas and Tracy were arranging a freight train for Big Tim to bring out when they oiled into the main yard. "Hello, Puffball," said Airy. "So the big old steelworks can handle with a teapot on rails? Figured they'd send for some modern diesels to help with the extra workload." "You'd be modern 70 years ago," quipped Ralph. "Now, as manager's diesel of the Bluesburg Steelworks, we're gonna need you to—" "And a rusty matchbox on wheels for a boss. Boy, you really need proper diesels around here," Bert greasily chirped. "Why, you?" "All right," said Phoebe coolly. "Now that we've gotten to know each other, let's get to work. Diesel, dockyard deliveries. Airy and Bert, you're working the pier." And she confidently went back to the steelwork shed to work. The Diesels did prove to help out a little bit, but many problems soon arose with their presence. They shoved trains into the wrong sidings, took any chance they got to make fun of or play tricks on Ralph and Tracy, and Diesel would bump Thomas or take the right away from him. Altogether, the three engines were gradually getting fed up with the Diesels' trickery. Phoebe, on the other hand, wasn't particularly bothered. No matter what prank she got, she took it all in stride. "Thank you for arranging my freight cars, Airy," she said to him after getting bumped with freight cars. "I really needed the washdown, Bert," she said when shunted while taking on water. "Your brakes need checking," she said when bumped by Diesel. All in all, the freight engine was proving to be very tough to break. And Diesel and his cronies were more determined than ever to push her to the edge. Next morning, Thomas and Phoebe were sent to Celgrub City with a heavy freight train. They were to be transferred to another train heading out for Pennsylvania in the afternoon. "Make sure to mind yourselves while we're gone," puffed Phoebe. "And mind yourselves if you have to go through Bluesburg West." "Huh," said Diesel. "We can handle that yard easily." And determined to prove they were capable, he requested that he, Airy, and Bert be coupled to the next train heading out through there. "There's a 12 o'clock express to go to Folston, but you'd better watch out there. It'll be rush hour." But the Diesels weren't thinking or listening. They were too busy thinking how clever they were to realize what they were getting themselves into. Nor had they been paying attention to the freight cars in the yard. "Who are they to boss us around, punting us like footballs around the yards? This is Phoebe's yard, and Ralph's too. Let's teach them a lesson, boys." The Diesels were soon on their way with their heavy freight train. Although advised by the conductor to take at the very least a transfer caboose, they chose to take it as a triple header. The Diesels on the other railways have no trouble hauling it all at the front with no van, so why should we worry? But they have forgotten that Diesels on the other railway have special devices to minimize the usage of brake vans and cabooses. Bluesburg West is a very dangerous yard for a careless engine. There's few signals located throughout it, and engines must take care and pay close attention when entering or exiting the yards. Engines must always be prepared to give off 4 short whistles to alert the signalman in the control tower that they are there. But Diesel and the twins hadn't bothered to remember. They just hurried through the tunnel to the junction. The car's chance had come. "On! On! On!" they yelled, and with a mighty shove, the cars took the Diesels by surprise and surged the speeding engines into the junction. The signalmen were shocked and put in a full-on panic, frantically trying to avoid a collision. 2 mainland Diesels nearly hit them at the entrance, they almost hit Callie at an intersection, and Douglas nearly lost his tender. "Phew," said Diesel, "we're home free now." But they weren't. They hadn't accounted for Alea, a little shunting engine who was pushing a line of freight cars to go to Groffman Harbor. She was entering the main line. "Oh no!" screamed Diesel as he shut his brakes hard on. Then, disaster struck. Diesel was on his side next to the crash, dazed, confused, and bruised. Some of Alea's cars had been thrown right off the track, and with Airy and Bert derailed on the switch, no one from the main line could get into the junction. "Hang on!" shouted Alea. "I'll fetch a crane and send for a few others!" By the time the mess was cleared, Phoebe and Thomas were returning from their big run. Phoebe was a little bit entertained from the debacle. "Well, well, well, 3 Diesels too big for their buffers couldn't manage steel cars, eh?" Diesel was fuming. Well, if you treat wagons and engines like that, then it's gonna bite you in the tail lamp, she said firmly. Right, shall we try and haul these cars to the yards? If it helps a bit, said a tired but still willing Thomas. It took some time to tidy up the mess, but soon everything was put right again, and Thomas and Phoebe hauled away the wagons to Foston. What about Diesel, Larry, and Bert? Well, it wasn't long before the Colville Works set them back up and running again, but they don't mess with steel cars anymore, because they know they'll try to bite back. Every so often on the Crotoonian railways, engines will be sent to work in unfamiliar places. It was on one of these occasions that Thomas was sent away from his branch line to help with a project up in the hills. There was a new depot being built high on the Cliffstone Mountains. The Crotoonia Construction Company had called for a spare shunting engine, being that Brewster, one of the company engines, was having his monthly checkup. The depot was near the village of Cliffstone Valley, which was reached by a steep, narrow line only accessible by smaller engines like Thomas and Tilly. When Thomas arrived at the site, there was a lot of work going on. Buildings needed roofing, track was being laid, and there was a lot of building materials lying around and waiting for further use. Jack, the front loader, and Scoop, the backhoe digger, were shifting dirt and rubble from new foundations when Thomas whistled in.
Hi, Thomas!
Hi, Jack! And I believe you're Scoop, right?
You got it. Straight from Bobsville. And Sunflower Valley. And Fixham. And Spring City.
I take it you've been around then.
Me and Bob's team certainly have.
Good morning. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Thomas. I'm Bob.
Oh, wow! Hi! No need for introductions. I've already heard so much about you, Bob. All good things, of course.
Well, I would hope so. You can tell me more later. Right now, we have a big assignment ahead of us.
Oh, yes! What will I be doing?
You will be working with Isabella and Packer to pick up and drop off materials for the site. And the forklift will be loading them up and collect all the spares we send back down.
Sure, no problem. It'll be nice to work with a new friend.
I'm sure Packer feels the same way. Just don't get too dusty or whip up too much smoke, you two. You know how I am about me paint.
Don't worry, Izzy. It's only containers and pipes and things.
How many times have I told you, Packer? It's Isabella, not Izzy.
Oh, what's wrong with Izzy anyway? Isabella's so long. Takes forever to struggle through.
It's undignified. That's what's wrong with it.
Thomas couldn't help but smile. He was glad to know the pack was getting along with their new friends. After a fashion, anyway. There were crating materials for the station, piping materials for plumbing, and supplies like fuel and spare parts of the machines to deliver first.
I found out a long time ago. You gotta learn to say yes when life says no. Don't dwell on the bad times once they're past. That kind of thing can get you nowhere fast. 'Cause there ain't no mountain you can't climb. If you hang on tight, you just make up your mind. Once you set your heart to moving on, son, there ain't no road to go.
machines working around the yard.
You need some cement over here? Don't worry, I'm on it.
Poetry in motion.
He was so fascinated by all the machines and work going on that Thomas started wishing he could do more.
I wish I could help with a bit of the building. Maybe I can. With the help of one of those breakdown cranes, I can definitely transport this load on my own.
Meanwhile, Lofty the Crane was shifting an important roofing section for the station building. The roads were packed while Rolly and Buster the steamrollers were working, so he had to ride along the railway line, which was dangerously close to the edge of the valley.
Oh, okay. Just a little further on the road and we should be at the site.
Come on, hurry up. I gotta get my axles greased. So do I. I'll be done faster than you. I'm the better build after all. We'll see about that.
Max! Monty! Get back here! The road's not cleared!
Oh, no you don't.
Okay, nearly at the...
No! Oh!
What happened here?
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to help with the building process, so I thought I'd try to deliver some of these furnishings on my own, and...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that was your job. Be that as it may, Dizzy, now's not the time for playing the blame game. We need to figure out how to get that load back up. I got it! We could get Gripper to help. His cable is really long, and he's got a winch. You're right. Unfortunately, right now, he's helping out at the Crotoonia Bay docks. Oh, bother! Well, now what are we gonna do?
If only we had something long enough to reach out to the end of the valley.
But where would we find that?
I got it!
Got what, Thomas?
An idea! Look, I did something incredibly silly and messed up. I'd like a chance to correct that mistake. So, may I have permission to go off-site?
Sure, but why?
You'll see soon, Bob. I promise. We could build this scaffolding into a jib. We can hook a winch onto it and use it like an old-fashioned pulley crane to get the crate.
That's a brilliant idea, Thomas. Good thinking.
Thanks, Wendy.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get to work. Can we fix it?
Yes, we can! Yeah, I think so.
Assembling the contraption was no problem for Bob and Wendy, but bringing it up was another story. With the hoist fitted onto Isabella and Packer, and with the magnet hooked onto Thomas's winch, it would all require teamwork to get the job done. The container was stuck on a very awkward point of the valley. Lofty's magnet made it easy to collect it, but bringing it up would be the ultimate test.
Is everybody ready?
Ready to work.
Time to go to the rescue.
Thomas is ready.
All right then. Let's get this show on the road!
It was a lot harder to pull a container from off the ground than pulling it on a wagon, but Thomas didn't stop. He kept heaving the container up.
I just hope the arm holds.
Wait for it! Now, Isabella! Now!
Well done, all of you!
Woohoo! Oh, we did it! Hooray!
Boy, that sure was a heave.
I didn't even get my paintwork dirty. Go figure.
Splendid job, team! And a special thank you to Thomas. You were very creative with figuring out a solution to the problem. I'll be certain to thank your controller for sending over some reinforcements.
But I'm not really all that, am I? I caused this whole mess, and all because I took up a job before asking.
Well, true, but you fixed your mistake and learned from it, I trust?
Oh, yes, of course. Next time, I will definitely ask before taking up a job, even if it looks really cool.
Then that's all that matters. At the end of the day, you are a really cognitive tank engine.
That evening, Thomas went back to the sheds to tell his friends all about the day's adventures. What's more, he had learned a valuable lesson in the importance of correcting his mistakes. As Bob and his friends taught him, with a bit of creativity and teamwork, no problem is too big to solve together.
Shut up! You're not the only one in this highway, pal. Who do you think you are anyway, Sir Topham Hat? Oh, you are. Carry on then. Need a cheesel flake? Why not? Hey, yo, Grumpyman, turn that off.
Crooked cucumbers. They've been playing the same song every 20 minutes. It'd be easier if someone didn't jam a CD in my 8-track player.
I thought it would fit.
Hey, Mr. G. 1965 called. They want their old junk back.
Look, it may be vintage, but it's serviceable. Certainly more so than those laser discs or whatever high-tech garbage you kids are using these days.
I gotta agree with Meg. I'm 2,000 years old, and that thing is pretty dated.
No one ever complained about my stuff before.
Oh, these mountains are gonna be perfect! There's restaurants and parks and waterfalls and...
Not to mention the resort itself. Wave pools and lazy rivers and a ropes course.
This vacation's gonna be great! Sleeping out under the stars, roasting some marshmallows.
Homestar, this isn't a camping trip. It's a business trip.
But I have all these marshmallows. Why didn't you tell me earlier?
I told you at least 12 times.
Well, I'm just glad to spend the weekend not cleaning soot out of a clanking steamer smokestack. What kind of convention we going to again?
I told you, this is a very important convention for the railway... What? Thank you. Mr. Grumpy, Station Master of Celgrub Central speaking, currently on vacation, so if you could kindly...
That you? Oh, thank heaven, I've been trying to reach you for hours. I got the rooms checked in and everything for us, but I've been hoping you guys would be here by now. I prepared a wonderful luncheon of sandwiches and fries in the sweet...
Hey, yo, Duckman! If this was so important, why didn't you just drive us over? I mean, you're the head of the freaking railway board. Don't you got like a party bus or something?
Well, actually, after that whole accident with Gordon, Montana, and Farnsworth, I had to cover some of the budget cuts.
Hey, look! The traffic is moving.
Oh,
whoa! Alright, thank the God. Let's get out of here.
Oh, there he goes. Like a football across the 50-yard line.
No, it's okay. I'm all right, guys. Don't everybody help at once.
Oh, of course it goes out now. Oh, what was that? The tire? Oh, come on.
So, is it a bad time to say that I sold a spare tile for these marshmallows?
I really should have taken Henry's offer and going there.
This feels weird.
Mighty machines, making mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines, lifting and falling and flying so high, building a building up to the sky. You can watch them all day and never know why they're mighty machines. Hear them roar, watch them soar, sit right down and see. There are stories to enjoy for every girl and boy. Mighty machines, really mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines, working for you, doing mighty things there. Mighty machines.
One day, the harbor down at Crotoonia Bay was very busy. Lots of ships were sailing in and out of the docks, and there was a big shipment from Europe coming in shortly. The engines working the docks were rushed off their wheels as the cranes loaded cargo onto their flatbeds and freight cars.
Where are these headed out again, dear?
Celgrub City Freight Yard for the gas and refrigerator containers. The rest go to the docks in Celgrub Harbor.
Understood.
How much more coal does this blasted ship need?
About 6 more wagons. They're parked by the supplier's yard.
The ship just radioed in to say it's coming into the coast. I'm going out to bring it in. I'll bridge the other tugs to help.
Thanks, 10 cents.
It soon became apparent that other engines were needed at the docks, since there was too much for the harbor yard engines to do on their own.
Morning, Pepper Pete. Hi, Edward.
Morning, Raisy.
It's Tracy, Pete. Tracy.
Oh, that's what I said, didn't I? Anyway, what are you off to this morning?
Some mail got misdelivered?
Nope. I'm heading off to the docks.
The docks? That's a busy place for you to work at.
Yeah, but I've worked there before, so I can take care of myself there.
Hope it all goes well then.
Good luck, youngster. Just mind the bigger work you're given.
I will.
Tracy made record time getting to the harbor. She couldn't wait to start work by the beautiful seaside. When she got there, 10 Cents and some other tugs had managed to get the ship into the port. It was huge, heavily loaded with goods, and ready for unloading and reloading. Tracy was rushing towards Emma and the ship, ready to double-check what her jobs were, when...
Watch where you're going, you dinky little engine!
Important engines with more important freight coming through.
Oh no, not Cerberus and Diesel 10. What are they doing here?
They've come to help out with the heavy goods.
What? Them? Why couldn't you get someone like the haulers at the Groflin docks?
They're really busy too. We didn't have a lot of engines free today with all the deliveries coming in, so we've had to work with all we've got.
Well, I suppose that's understandable. So, what do you want me to do today? Shunting big trains on the main dock again?
Sorry, Tracy, not this time. I need you to help Trix and Skip at the supplier's yard. They've got a lot of deliveries and materials to get out, so they need someone to help sort out the trains.
Okay, who's Trix and Skip?
You'll find out. They're a nice couple of machines.
Emma was right. Trix and Skip are as nice as they are hard-working. Trix the forklift zips about the yard loading cargo for the trains and trucks that come to the dock, while Skip takes garbage from the building sites and yards down to the dump. Whenever he's paying attention, that is.
Rattling rods! Look at all this stuff! Oh, you must be Trix and Skip.
We certainly are. And you've got to be... Oh! Ouch! Tracy!
Indeed I am. So, what do I have to shift?
Oh, well, for a start, you can shove those bricks and lumber together. They're going up to Prillam for the new townhouses.
And then you can get those empties to Cranky so he can load up the special stuff that just arrived for the mainland.
I'm on it. I'll get it done in no time. Flat.
Down by the docks, that's the place to be. Down by the docks, the gateway to the sea. Down by the dockside, we are the team, working together, just like family. Down by the docks, you're never on your own. Down by the docks, it's really home from home. Down by the dockside, down by the dockside, down by the dockside, it's where we want to be. Down by the docks, it's where we want to be.
Later that afternoon, Dieselton and Cerberus were just heading out to the Crotoonia Bay goods depot with a long line of cars when Diesel crossly rolled alongside. And where do you think you two are going?
Another load of crummy wagons. What's so bad about that?
We've got a load coming in from on those narrow gauges at the junction, and one of you has to take it.
Don't see why it has to be us. We've been hauling all morning.
I know someone who would.
Hey, Diesel! What's up?
Dockmaster Noisy just said you've got a special to pick up from the junction.
Really? A special?
Oh yes, some goods from the hills going down here. They need those wagons urgently.
Wow, that's something for a little engine like me.
Tracy, are you sure we should do that? And from orders from Debrius Diesel?
Hey, 10 cents! That delivery from the junction here yet?
Not yet, Dockmaster. Should be here soon, though.
Well, what do you... Oh, no.
Tracy had wasted no time getting to the junction. The cars were already waiting for her, freshly loaded up with heavy goods.
I got these buffers buffed.
Now, Tracy was not inexperienced at pulling goods trains, but she'd never really hauled goods trains this heavy before, and usually the goods trains were kept to the flatter parts of the railway. And she was finding out very quickly that they were a lot harder to control than she thought.
Are you guys sure she's pulled the heavy goods before? Cause it's not looking like that to me.
Yeah, I'm getting vibes she's an amateur.
My buffer feels like a cut of switch. Got it. Why she giving her the right of way? We got the right of way. Good grief. Hey, like guys, I got an idea. So hear me out. Why don't we like push you down the big hill a little bit? You know, not like in a mean way. Just kind of like, you know, hey, teach you for next time kind of way. Not supposed to be hard or anything.
Do you really want to do this right now?
I mean, if it makes you guys happy, I'm having a fun ride back here. You know what, Joe? I don't always agree with you, but let's do this. Everyone in favor? Clank. Good. Let's do it. We'll talk about good timing, because here it comes now.
So is this going to be like an easy push on her? Because I'm not sure what the plan is here right now.
Right. Only about a mile more, and we'll be... what the... come on! Slow down!
I don't think so! Tracy tried to apply her brakes, but it was too late. The cars were pushing her faster and faster down the line, and not even the brake van could help.
Help! Somebody help! Look out! Runaway train! Oh, goodness! Stop!
The out-of-control Tracy and her cars were sent speeding along through the docks and down the line towards the old wooden pier.
So, Joe, did you forget about the giant pin we're about to crash off of? I didn't know it was there. I thought we were going to lose the buses or something.
Luckily, 10 Cents had been docking a sand barge near the pier and had set it up to make a makeshift arrestor bed when he saw her coming down.
Oh, thanks, 10 cents. I owe you one.
No problem, mate. I'll go and fetch a crane. Then you can get some of that sand out of your valves.
Because the tide was too low to lift her out, Tracy had to sit in the barge for some time. A little bit happened while she waited. Cars were delivered. Engines were found out and punished. And ships shouted, "Anchors away!" But even as Bonavista finally arrived to lift her out of the barge, Tracy still felt ashamed for causing an accident by jumping into a situation she wasn't prepared for. As the workmen got ready to lift Tracy out from the barge, Emma, Trick, Skip, and Luke all came to help out any way they could.
Engine secured! Bring her up, boys!
Now, don't be hard on yourself, kid. It wasn't all your fault. Those three were looking for an easy way out of a situation, and you got tricked into it. From what I heard from these two, you were a big help.
Yeah, you were a huge help getting all the deliveries out today.
Even if you got a little sandy.
Thanks, guys. And I learned something else, too.
Well, what's that?
10 cents to trap for the baseball team, with his catching skills.
Oh, I get it! Kelsey got you insane!
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to be taking public transit to the gala. Elsa, thank you again for agreeing to come with me. I know it's a bit unorthodox for the real family to ride the express, but...
Unorthodox only because we're fortunate enough to have access to private transportation. It just didn't seem right to travel to a charity gala in a private coach. Did you know? The people we're supporting tonight have to walk over 5 miles a day just to get water for their village.
Oh, I didn't know that. Kind of puts my enthusiasm in perspective, huh?
It's good to be grateful for what we do have, while remembering those less fortunate and doing what we can to help them.
I don't think I've ever seen Daisy so sad before. What do you think happened?
Good afternoon, Daisy. Anna couldn't help but notice you seemed a bit, well, not your usual chipper self.
Oh, Your Majesty! It's the weather.
The weather?
Yes! Oh, it's absolutely dreadful! I've had to do my Christmas runs all day, and no snow to speak of! Not one flake! It just doesn't feel like Christmas without snow.
Well, there may not be snow, but it's a perfectly lovely day for...
What will the children make their snowmen out of, Your Majesty? The snow angels!
Yikes, she is really upset. Elsa, don't you think you could?
You mean... Oh, no, Anna, I couldn't.
Why not? Look at her, she's so sad. Wasn't it you who said we should help those less fortunate than us?
Well, yes, but...
It's the season of giving!
I've made a lot of progress with my powers, but my control is still a bit finicky sometimes. I probably shouldn't be using it so carelessly.
You've always told me you wish you could find a way to help people with your powers. This is your chance.
Oh, all right. Something small. It'll be my personal Christmas gift, shall we say.
Oh, is that?
Yes, for you, Daisy. A little friend to keep you company on this snowless winter day.
Oh, he's just lovely. What a thoughtful gift. You truly are a most benevolent queen. C'est magnifique. However, it does occur the poor snowman will melt without anything to keep him frozen. Oh dear, the very thought has made me sad all over again.
Oh, no. Don't be sad. There. Now he won't melt.
Oh, thank you, but what if he gets lonely? I simply can't have my snowman being lonely. It absolutely breaks my heart. Well, it only stands to reason that he must have a mother and a father.
In a pear tree. On the second day of Christmas, my true love said to me, 2 turtle doves in a partridge in a pear tree. On the third day of Christmas, my true love said to me, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree.
Are we nearly done yet, Donny? Almost, Dougie! Just another mile of track, and we won't need to worry about the...
On second thought, you may want to keep your core levels high!
Oh no. What have I done?
Elsa, it's okay. It was just an accident.
That would have been avoided if I hadn't gotten so carried away. There would be so many delays. This is all my fault.
No, Your Majesty, this was my fault. I kept pushing you to do more because I just wanted a white Christmas. I never meant for things to get so out of hand. You were right. It was a beautiful day. I should have been grateful to have had a clear track and a bright sun to see me through.
Unfortunately, now we have neither, and as long as Elsa's upset, the snow is just going to get worse.
It is her! It is Elsa! Yeah, let's do it! Come on, let's go cheer her up!
Let's go sing for her!
Here we come a-caroling among the leaves so green, and here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you also too, and we'll bless you and send you a happy new year, and we'll send you a happy new year. We are not daily beggars who beg from door to door, but we are his children whom you have seen before. Love and joy come to you, and to you also too, and we'll bless you and send you a happy new year, and we'll send you a happy new year.
Absolutely lovely voices, all of you. You've all done a wonderful job reminding us what really matters, not just during the holiday season, but all year round. Simple little moments of incidental perfection just like this.
Bye, Queen Elsa. Bye, Anna. Merry Christmas. See you later. Have a happy New Year. Bye. Oh no. Did Queen Elsa get sad again?
No, my darlings. This isn't Queen Elsa's doing, but a lovely little moment of incidental perfection. Carry on, dears. No need to stop.
Here we come a-caroling among the leaves so green, and here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you also too, and we'll bless you and send you a happy new year, and we'll send
Mike was cross. The thin controller had assigned him to ballast duties for being naughty, and Mike hated being stuck at the mines all day. He found it rather boring. One morning, Mike arrived at Chipperton Wharf with a loaded train of ballast. He saw Duncan, who was getting his train loaded. "Morning, Mike. What's up?" "I feel overworked. That's what's up," huffed Mike. "I've been going up and down the line all day, stuck with the ballast trains, and all because I burst a safety valve and started an elderly woman." Duncan pondered for a moment. "You know, if I was on your wheels, I would have probably taken a break up on the coast at Birmingham. You know, have the ocean breeze in your face. Your line does run up there after all." And with that, Duncan set off for the quarry. This gave Mike an idea. All that week, Mike tried everything to sneak off to Birmingham. He tried to sneak ballast cars and lumber cars out as a construction delivery. He tried to run off light engine on his own and even begged the yard manager to let him go there. At last, he finally got a job on the resort end of the line, but not the one he had hoped for.
"An express train needs to be arranged at the Swahili Water Park Resort for a group of tourists. I need you to bring them some coaches so they have enough for the train to carry them."
"Yes, sir," said Mike, but he had a plan. Mike knew of one carriage that had a faulty coupler pin on it, so he coupled that to the front of his train. As he trundled out with 5 heavy covered carriages, he felt the pin push against him as he went downhill. "Not yet," he said. "We've got to wait until we reach the resort." As he approached the resort station, Scott, the express tank engine, was waiting for Mike's extra coaches. As he pulled into the platform, he put his plan into motion. With the pin loosened enough, left on the platform were the carriages for the train, and off went Mike. "What the?" said Scott.
"Slow down, Mike,"
said his driver.
"We just passed by the station."
But Mike wasn't listening. He was bolting it to the Birmingham coast. Stations and shunting yards flashed by as his driver fought for control of the regulator. At the big station in Birmingham, there were a pair of buffers on the other side of the turntable, just at the tail end of the shunting yards. Mike was still not paying any attention until he saw the buffers. Then everything happened at once. Mike found himself standing on the sand instead of the rails with the remains of the buffers behind him.
"Don't worry, Mike,"
called out his driver.
"I'll go phone for help."
Mike sighed. There had been a break, but not the one he had hoped for. Back at the Swahili Water Park Resort, Scott was still confused about what had happened as he backed down onto his coaches. Suddenly, he heard a blast of whistles and the clattering of equipment as Rashira and Grace the crane roared past. "Clear the tracks!" shouted Rashira. "Derailed engine at Birmingham Beach!" "Oh, mind your speed!" called Grace. "My gears are rattling!" As Mike was lifted back onto the rails by Rashira and Grace, he saw that Rex and Bert were also there. They'd come to help repair the tracks and buffers beyond the turntable.
Hell, Mike, you said you wanted a break from all the work you've been getting. But we never thought you would have it this way,
finished Bert. Well, if I must admit, it was alright, said Mike. But I didn't think the only break that happened would be to a pair of buffers. The three engines laughed in agreement.
You can have a steam train if you just lay down your tracks.
Hiya, Pacey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well, TJ. I'm hoping to get my work done as soon as I can, so I have time to get ready to see the new action chugger movie.
Oh, you mean Golden Window?
Yep, I'm going to see it tonight at the Chuggin. Or is it the Chuffin? The Chuggin, Chuff, the outdoor theater.
Oh, yeah, we saw that movie last night, didn't we, TJ? Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Well, please don't give anything away. I've been trying to avoid spoilers all week.
Well, it's an awesome movie. There's this bit where he goes into space and...
Stop! This is a spoiler-free zone!
Well, you at least want to know about the cameos? Flying Scotsman turns up at one point and...
Thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather see it for myself.
And then he gets out this giant sword and...
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And there's this bit where...
La 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 la! I'm not listening! La 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 la!
Okay, we'll stop now.
You promise?
Yep.
Phew.
Oh, and at the end he wins the big game against the alien, saves all the cartoon characters, and decides to retire from baseball to restart his basketball career.
No! Wait, isn't that just the ending to Space Jam?
Gotcha!
Oh, man, you
oh,
see a
we're
look on
just
your
messing
face.
with you, Pacey. You know I would never do that to you. I'm just not that type of engine. Yeah, and you know I would never do that to you, because I don't want to know what the Fat Controller would do to me in return. He's still holding my favorite video game hostage.
Oh, well, I'm just glad I'm mostly still in the dark about this movie.
Well, we still gotta deliver these tankers. Later, Pacey. Yeah, bye, Percy. Oh, and don't forget to buy my audiobook.
You mean the one that's just 20 minutes of you going through your made-up words?
Hey, Cal Longardo's Drongbradian Jerktionary Foam My Own Words is gonna win an award at some point. I just know it. It also helps that I have the cheat bribing the committee. Bye!
Goodbye! Huh, good. Only another 2 hours, and I'll make my way to the theater. I can't wait to see Golden Window.
Oh, that's a great movie. Especially the part at the end where Action Juggle finds out his father's still alive.
No!
Livy is a sturdy tank engine in charge of McCrackenton Freight Depot. It's near a small town just near the hills beyond Calville and Foston, and often gets deliveries from all over the railway. But the depot is not as big as others on the railway, which makes her feel very uptight about it. If it's not Livy's way, then it's the highway. One night, Livy was cooling her firebox for the night when Jebediah, the engine who pulled the Calville milk train, eased into the sheds. He was a very kindly engine, but he was rather worn out compared to the other engines. Ugh, keep your soot off my tanks, old-timer, snapped Livy. I've got an image to keep up with my yard. I'm sorry, Livy, puffed Jebediah, but my chug isn't what it used to be. My rods have been jamming up for the last little bit, so I've had to burn more to pump more. But why are you here now? I'm glad you asked, said Mrs. T-Mark, who ran the depot and was preparing to head home for the night. We've just gotten a contract to store and deliver dairy products from all over the railway beginning tomorrow. Livy was shocked. Her yard a dairy yard? But why? Can't that Cormac keep track of cheese with his silly prawns? I'm sorry, Livy, but we finalized the agreement. But it will keep our yard busy, and it'll open up a lot of opportunities if we do it well. But Livy didn't think so. Her yard had to be the way she wanted it. Next morning, the first load started to crawl in with Jebediah's first train. He brought churns of milk from the Crotoonia Bay and Calville dairies. Then Tootle delivered cream from Inkblada Towers Creamery. Then Emily delivered butter and eggs from Cliffstone Farms. And Olwen delivered the biggest load of all, cheeses from the Celgrub Bay Cheese Company. Every cheese you could imagine was packed into vans. Cheddar, mozzarella, feta, Swiss, string, Stilton, and even Wensleydale. The vans and refrigerated cars all packed the yards. Siding after siding seemed to be moving vans out and then vans in. Livy couldn't stand it. My yard should be an industrial space with construction materials, containers, and important things. Not a storage yard for a cheese festival. Did someone say cheese? And the more and more freight came in, the more and more she got tired of it. And she didn't treat poor Jebediah any nicer, especially when his rods finally gave out when parking home at the sheds one night. Oh, gosh darn it. Oh, fantastic, she cracked. Now what are we going to do about the Calville train? Don't fret about it, said Mrs. T-Mark. I'm sure Mrs. Ella will find another engine for the job. Now you'd better find a flat car and get poor Jebediah over to the works. And so she did. But her words flew around in her boiler. Find another engine to do the job. Find another engine to do the job. And that's when Livy made a plan. A firelighter comes every morning to ready the engines for the day. After the firelighter left this morning, Livy put her plan into motion. She rounded up every dairy car in the yard and coupled them all together. Then, with a bit of strain, she began to haul the cars off down the line to Bluesburg West Yard. They've got so many sidings there that little blue pressure cooker won't mind having some extra work to do. But she'd forgotten about Foston. Foston has two main line connections, a passenger line that leads up to the big station and the small commuter station, and a freight line that goes through the goods yard. Livy was hoping she'd be taken onto the passenger line where she usually went with her traffic. But the signalman hadn't known about Livy, and she was kept on the goods line, following a slow freight before her. Oh, bother, she said. Miss T-Mark will be finishing her breakfast and driving to the yards by now. But that was about to be the least of her worries, for there came a sound that rattled through her vents. Oh no! She cried. It's the Sunrise Skyrocket! She tried to go faster, but there were too many cars behind her. She thought she would be okay, but just as the train was halfway across the points, 2 cars were in pieces. No one had been hurt, and soon Tracy arrived with workmen to help clean up the mess. Miss T-Mark also arrived onto the scene of chaos. Cheese and butter lay all over the track. But worst of all was Livy. She was splattered with cheese all across her side tanks. And as if she didn't make herself look silly enough, 2 wheels of Stilton were stuck and melting on her 2 whistles. You're very lucky that only a small part of the deliveries are being delayed thanks to you. But I hope you understand now that there are times when you should talk to us about concerns. But thinking cheese and milk cars make your yard look silly is not one of them. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Once you've been cleaned up and mended, you can take care of Jebediah's milk train until he's repaired. And you learn to think of more than what you'd like the yard to be run like. Yes, ma'am.
Early one morning, Harry was struggling to get some freight cars moved from a siding. They were needed for a mixed traffic train that Donald and Douglas were to take to Nantasket Junction.
Come on! Come on! I'm gonna be late for my next job!
He groaned. His wheels spun and spun. The reason why the cars weren't moving at all was because their brakes were set. But he didn't realize this and just kept on pulling and pulling.
Come on! He groaned. I wish I was moving instead of standing still!
Suddenly, the coupling between him and the first freight car broke, and Harry ran right into a siding, smashed through some buffers, and stopped halfway across an old tramp steamer. Luckily, no one was hurt, but Harry's front was badly bent. Skipper Stu and the harbor master came over to see if Harry was all right.
Well, the only major damage is bent buffers,
said the harbor master.
Oh, botheration, said Skipper Stu. Harry and Hamish were to collect the coastline flyer in an hour. Who can we get to take the train on such short notice?
Luckily, Russ was close by and heard everything.
I can take it,
he called out.
Are you sure, Russ?
The harbor master called back.
It's a tough train to pull.
Of course! We've got to keep the trains to time, you know.
Well, all right. But we've got to send Hamish to help out with the backlog while Harry's being mended. So you'll need to find another engine who can help you take the coastline flyer.
Yes, Mom, Russ tooted confidently. I can manage that. But as Russ got closer to Celgrub Bay Harbor, he remembered something he should have kept in mind before. The Coastline Flyer was an express goods train usually hauled by Harry and Hamish that stops at every harbor along the Seaside Railway. Starting from Celgrub Bay, it goes on to Croflin and then goes all the way down to Gardenia Bay at the end of the line. Russ was worried, but was sure that he could find someone at Celgrub Bay who'd be happy to lend a wheel, just in case the train was too heavy for him to pull alone. Well, looks like I'll just have to ask the first engine I meet if they'll be able to help me, he decided as he pulled into the bustling dockyard. As he sorted out the containers for his train, he saw a little tank engine sitting on a siding, waiting for help.
Hello there,
he said.
You've got an interesting crane arm. Where's your hook?
I'm a reach stacker. I have clamps instead of hooks.
That's intriguing. I've never met a reach stacker engine before. Oh, beg pardon for not introducing myself. I'm Stepney.
And my name's Russ. I've got a big freight train to take to Crotoonia Bay, but I'm not sure if I can do it on my own.
I'd be more than willing to lend a buffer, said Stepney cheerfully. I'm catching a ferry there anyway.
Great, honked Russ. We'd better hurry if we're to get the goods delivered on time. As the two shunted together the loads to hook up, Russ told him about his work in Groflin and the many different engines he worked with, while Stepney told him about his time in Crotoonia, in which he'd been visiting to be part of a great locomotive show at Celgrub City Sheds, and now had to return to his home in England, the Bluebell Railway. Russ and Stepney decided to take the train in two halves. Russ would haul the containers, and Stepney would haul the other loads, tankers, fish, stone, produce, and products from the factories around the city. When all was shunted and ready, the two set off down the seaside railway with their important train. Unfortunately, they didn't get very far, as the first stretch to get out of the harbor was uphill. They tugged and pulled, but no matter what, the engines couldn't get their trains up the slope.
I'm sorry, Russ. This train seems to be a bit tougher to haul up than I thought.
You're right, sighed Russ. The coastline flyer is too heavy for both of us to pull separately, and if we leave later, we won't have time to uncouple each of the cars for the docks. Then, as if by magic, both engines came up with the same idea. They decided to arrange each of their trains into two new halves. Cars for Groflin were coupled to Stepney, and cars for Crotoonia Bay were coupled to Russ. Both brake vans were coupled together, then Stepney with his train, and then Russ and his train. With an engine hauling at the front and an engine to haul from the middle, the two could get up the hill and on their way down the line. The rearranged train also made it easier to drop off and pick up cargo at the two stops. Stepney's cars were uncoupled, and new cars of steel, fish, and lumber were coupled on. They made it to the docks just in time. Well, it was a pleasure to work with you today, Stepney. It's a pity you have to go home now. Likewise, Russ. But I'm glad your crew have such a good friend. Keep everything in order back home, and who knows, maybe I'll visit here again. Goodbye, Russ, and Godspeed. Russ then rolled home, confident, ready for bed, and glad he had found himself a new friend.
Express runs again?
You bet. And off to the loading dock, I assume?
Yeah, and we gotta get going, Rashera. The boat's probably waited ages for us. All right, cool your pistons, Grace. We'll get it done in twice the time any old crane can.
Well, good luck, you two. Oh, and mind the...
Ew. Ugh, what is that smell? Ugh.
Pong.
I just can't nab a mind on what that smell going about here is. I mean, it's a little bit stinky, but stiff as in above is it a real pong. It's like 2 tons of old boiler sludge mixed with 1 ton of engine ash and 2 wagons of stinky cheese all boiled together in an oven. I'm telling you, it's the worst smell I've smelled since the holy hydraulics! Look out below! Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear! I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention and I bungled it up. No worries. At least it solved that fishy situation.
Hi, you two. You got my load of salmon to take to the Birmingham Station Cafe? Hurry up, you lot! There's no time to waste! We're falling behind schedule!
Whoa, cool your pistons there, Ralph. We're going as fast as we can. Cut us some slack.
We're on a very tight schedule, Leonard, so I want things done, and I want things done on time! Those slag cars should be empty by now! And Dip, put the pedal to the metal!
I'm on it, boss. I'll take a shortcut across the rails. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Ah! Oh no! Not again! Not again! Not again! Not again! Look out!
I got it! Oh! Why don't you watch where you're going, Puffball?
Huh? What the?
So, Ralph? Now that we're here, now that we're witnessing this, would now be a bad time to tell you that I think things work a little too well around this yard?
Quiet, you.
Huh? What was that? Well, what do you know? Looks like those sleigh cars have all been emptied. Isn't that what you wanted, Ralph?
I think I mean a minute. There was a lot to take in at once.
Hey, Dip! That was really something you pulled off there. Only, do you think you could do it again? How about you unload those pipe wagons for us?
Oh,
Stew is a very efficient engine. Being the dockmaster's diesel of Groflin Harbour, he always works to make sure the docks are tip-top tick-tock and on the clock. Unfortunately, this attitude does have a tendency to cause some, problems. One night, as the seaside locomotives were cooling their fireboxes and engines, Skipper Stu was rolling into the roundhouse. The engines were surprised. "What are you doing here tonight, Skip?" asked Oliver. "Passenger detail. The Seaside Rail Co. scheduled a test run for our new express passenger service for tomorrow, but the new engine she bought hasn't arrived yet, so I, of all engines, am to take the train tomorrow." "That sounds lovely," said Emma. "Not when you're the dockmasters, Diesel. I feel like I should stay here and keep things running." "But we all help to do that," said Jones the Steam, "even whilst we have engines out of action. Like how I'm taking care of the containers while Russ is on holiday," said Gripper the Crane. "Suppose you've got a point," said Skipper Stu. "In that case, I'll keep this passenger run on the clock." And with that, he went straight to sleep. Next morning, however, showed that not everything would be on the clock. Skipper Stu, keeping in proper Navy fashion, woke himself up well before dawn. Unfortunately, the ship was still far out at sea by the time he got there. Trains came in and out of the terminal, and buses put-putted in and out for a good hour while he was waiting. At last, the big cruise ship carrying his passengers finally arrived and quickly boarded his coaches. Stu's train would only stop at the harbour stations, so the coaches were special for the long trip. There was a break coach, a luggage van, a sleeper, a diner, and a lounge, all coupled together for the long journey. At last, everyone was on board, and Skipper Stu was ready to go. "Tick-tock, we're on the clock, off we go, lads," he called out, but the coaches weren't ready. "The conductor's not ready! The conductor's not ready!" they called out, but it was no use. Skipper Stu was moving. Had he not been flagged down, he would have left the luggage van and the brake coach behind. Skipper Stu felt very embarrassed. All the way to their first stop in Groflin, it seemed like nothing went right. Because they were late, they were switched off on a loop siding to let Yemon hurry past with some freight cars. Then, he ran into trouble with Donald at the salt mines. And to make things worse, the inclines proved very troublesome for Skipper Stu, causing the coaches to rock about and give the passengers an unpleasant experience. Passengers trying to sleep were given an unwanted massage. Hotcakes and bagels flew across the diner, and passengers trying to take pictures were given blurry results. At last, they made it to their first stop. The grumbling passengers boarding the main line connections and ferry boats at the dock got off, and some new passengers got in. Harry and Hamish, the express freight diesels, were surprised to see their boss worn out and stressed. "Oh, how do engines manage this? I've run this train to time, and I've run into nothing but trouble." "Well, we're not experts on the matter," said Harry, "but passenger trains aren't like freight," said Hamish. "They're right, you know," said a voice. It was Olwen, who'd been hauling Isabel and Dulcie while Oliver was working at the salt mines. "Passengers are not meant to be treated like soldiers, and coaches aren't meant to be treated like cars. You need to be gentle, smooth, and above all, relaxed." "So, don't order them on board?" "Correct." "And don't rock them about?" "Correct. Just be relaxed and keep steady." Just then, the conductor blew his whistle. "All aboard!" he called out as Skipper Stu tooted to say, "All clear." And now, knowing that the passengers and luggage were safely aboard, he started off. The ride up to Crotoonia Bay was much smoother. Skipper Stu didn't run into any loop sidings or jerk about on inclines. He just hauled his way up quickly but steadily. The passengers could sleep comfortably in the sleeper. The diners could enjoy their lunches of hot hamburgers, sandwiches, wraps, and soft drinks. And sightseers could take in the beauty of the Crotoonian coast. And when they arrived at the harbour,
Skipper Stu waited patiently for the passengers to reboard his coaches. Then, they all travelled down the same route home, stopping at each stop without fail. Finally, he made his last stop late into the night. His passengers boarded the final cruise ship bound for the mainland, and the express coaches were shunted away to the yards. "Well done," said Dockmaster Eric. "I heard you improved a great deal after what happened this morning, and the express has been a great success. Therefore, I am proud to say..." "Thank you, good Eric," interrupted Stu. "But I do have my Dockmaster's duties to fill." "Oh, I wasn't going to have you take over." "Then, what were you going to say?" "But I must stop here, I'm afraid, or I'm going to spoil the next story."